Nobody noticed the old man quietly mopping in the corner of Iron Forge Gym in downtown Chicago, until four young bodybuilders decided to make him their entertainment. What they didn't know was that 45 years ago, those same weathered hands had conquered the World Heavyweight Championship. Welcome to Human Stories. Before we continue with this tale of respect and consequences, tell us in the comments what city you're watching from. And if you believe true strength comes from experience, not age, hit that subscribe button. These stories change lives. Tuesday morning, 9:30 a.m., Iron Forge Gym, located in downtown Chicago, buzzed with the energy of morning workouts. State-of-the-art machines lined the walls like chrome soldiers. Giant mirrors multiplied every muscle, every pose, every self-satisfied glance. The thick air smelled of effort, protein powder, and testosterone. This wasn't just any gym. It was where Chicago's young and hungry came to forge their bodies and feed their egos. Membership cost $200 a month, and the clientele made sure everyone knew it. In the corner near the locker rooms, a 68-year-old man went completely unnoticed. Frank Kowalski, to everyone simply the custodian, moved his mop with precise, calculated movements. His appearance didn't draw attention. Medium height, slightly stooped, well-combed gray hair. He wore a faded blue work shirt and worn jeans. But his hands told a different story. Thick, with knuckles marked by old scars, wide wrists that spoke of contained power. Frank had been working at Iron Forge for 3 years. Arrived at 8 a.m., left at 6 p.m. Never complained, just did his job efficiently and stayed in his quiet world. Born in Cicero, the son of Polish immigrants who'd taught him that respect was earned through actions, not words. His father worked the steel mills. His mother cleaned houses. They'd taught Frank that honest work had dignity, no matter what form it took. The main door burst open with unnecessary force. 4 young men entered with aggressive confidence that announced itself before words were spoken. Jake Morrison led the group, 24 years old, 6'2", 230 pounds of sculpted muscle, fed by an even bigger ego. His third-place finish in the Illinois State Bodybuilding Championship had turned him into a minor celebrity in Chicago's fitness scene. Jake was a real estate developer's son, raised in wealthy Lincoln Park, attended private schools. The gym was his kingdom, where daddy's money couldn't buy respect. Here, he had to earn it through strength. Following him were Tyler, Brad, and Marcus, all cut from the same cloth. Trust fund kids who discovered that muscles could compensate for their privileged emptiness. "Today's the day, boys," Jake announced, loudly. "I'm breaking through 315 pounds. Been stuck at 295 for 3 weeks, but I can feel it today." His crew gathered around like disciples, beginning their ritual of weight preparation and mutual motivation. In their world, these numbers were everything, defining worth, masculinity, social status. Jake prepared methodically. Warm-up, mobility work, mental visualization. The first sets went perfectly. 225 felt light, 275 moved smoothly. 295 required effort, but went up clean. "All right, this is it," Jake muttered, positioning himself under the loaded bar. 315. Time to join the big boy club. Frank passed nearby with his cleaning cart, moving quietly along his route. He didn't acknowledge the young men. He was invisible background infrastructure. Jake gripped the bar, took 3 deep breaths, and lifted. The first rep started strong, but as he pressed upward, his left shoulder shifted, his grip faltered, and suddenly, 315 pounds was descending toward his throat. "Help! Help me!" Jake's voice cracked with panic as the bar pressed on his windpipe. His face turned red, then purple. Brad lunged forward but couldn't get leverage. Tyler reached but missed. Marcus froze. Jake prepared methodically. Warm-up, mobility work, mental visualization. The first sets went perfectly. 225 felt light. 275 moved smoothly. 295 required effort, but went up clean. "All right, this is it," Jake muttered, positioning himself under the loaded bar. 315. Time to join the big boy club. Frank passed nearby with his cleaning cart, moving quietly along his route. He didn't acknowledge the young men. He was invisible background infrastructure. Jake gripped the bar, took 3 deep breaths, and lifted. The first rep started strong, but as he pressed upward, his left shoulder shifted, his grip faltered, and suddenly, 315 pounds was descending toward his throat. "Help! Help me!" Jake's voice cracked with panic as the bar pressed on his windpipe. His face turned red, then purple. Brad lunged forward, but couldn't get leverage. Tyler reached, but missed. Marcus froze. Frank dropped his mop. He didn't run or shout. He simply walked with measured steps toward the bench and, with one fluid motion, lifted all 315 pounds from Jake's throat and settled it safely on the rack. The movement was so effortless that nobody processed what happened. Those 315 pounds that had nearly crushed Jake seemed weightless to Frank. Jake sat up, gasping and coughing, eyes wide with relief and confusion. The bench area went silent. Thank you," Jake managed, but his wounded pride was already transforming gratitude into resentment. Frank nodded once and turned to retrieve his mop. "Wait up, old-timer." Jake's voice carried a sharp edge. "That was impressive. You're stronger." "Boxing, huh?" Jake exchanged glances with his crew. "Let me guess, Golden Gloves, amateur stuff?" Contained laughter rippled through the group. "Something like that," Frank replied neutrally. What began as dismissal quickly became systematic humiliation. Jake, feeding off his audience and driven by bruised ego, pressed harder. "I bet you fought at county fairs," Jake continued, stepping closer. "Real small-time stuff, right? Maybe 3 fights total?" Tyler joined in. "Probably won 2, lost 1, and called himself a boxer forever." "Come on, Grandpa," Brad added with false friendliness. "Tell us some war stories. We promise we won't laugh." Much. Other gym members noticed the confrontation. Cardio machines slowed, conversations died. Uncomfortable tension filled the air. Frank placed his mop against the wall, his knuckles briefly going white on the handle. "I don't really talk about that time," Frank said quietly. "Of course you don't," Jake laughed harshly. "Because there's nothing to talk about. You're just the janitor. That's all you've ever been." Those words hung like a slap. Just the janitor. Frank's hands slowly closed into fists, automatic reflexes from decades past. "You know what, Pops?" Jake moved closer, chest puffed out. "This is a gym for real athletes. You just push a mop and pretend you understand strength." Jake was performing now, playing to his audience. Having this old man upstage him was intolerable. "So prove it." Jake's voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Show me what that boxing taught you. Throw a punch, old man, just one." The challenge hung like a loaded gun. The gym held its breath. "You really want me to?" Frank asked quietly. "Yeah," Jake sneered. "Show us what the great boxer can do." Frank studied Jake's face, then slowly placed his hand on Jake's shoulder. Not aggressively, but with casual confidence that immediately shifted the dynamic. "Son," Frank said, his voice taking on different weight. "Have you ever seen a real professional boxer? Not on TV, in person, up close." The unexpected question made Jake's aggressive posture falter. "What? Yeah, on pay-per-view." "No," Frank shook his head. "In person, standing across from one." Jake shifted uncomfortably. Frank's tone had changed the energy completely. "Here's something most people don't know about professional fighters," Frank continued steadily. "The first rule isn't how to throw a punch. It's when not to throw one." Tyler began typing on his phone, some instinct triggering suspicion. "When you've spent your life in real rings, you learn to recognize danger differently," Frank went on. "You learn that the most dangerous opponent isn't always the one making the most noise." "My name," Frank said, with quiet dignity, "is Frank Iron Fist Kowalski." Silence. World heavyweight boxing champion from 1979 to 1982. 47 professional fights, 39 knockouts, 8 successful title defenses. Marcus's phone nearly slipped. Brad stepped back. Tyler's Google search loaded, his face going white. "Jake," Tyler whispered, showing his screen. "This guy is real." Black and white photos. Young Frank Kowalski holding a championship belt, surrounded by screaming fans. Headlines: Iron Fist destroys challenger. Kowalski retains world title. Madison Square Garden, December 15, 1979. Frank continued, like reciting facts. 18,000 people screaming. I fought Jimmy the Tank Wilson for the undisputed heavyweight championship. Jake's aggression had evaporated completely. Sixth round, 2 minutes 37 seconds. Left hook to the body, right cross to the jaw. Wilson went down and didn't get up for 10 minutes. That was the night I became champion. The gym was silent, except for air conditioning hum. 3 years I held that belt, fought in New York, Vegas, Atlantic City, London, made more money than most people see in a lifetime. Tyler frantically scrolled through search results, finding video footage, news articles, records. Each discovery confirmed they'd humiliated a boxing legend. But here's what really matters, Frank said, his voice carrying weight that pressed down on everyone nearby. Success, fame, money, none of that teaches wisdom. That only comes with time and experience. He paused, looking at each young man. I work here because I like to work, because I need income, and honest labor has dignity. I don't talk about my career because I don't need to. The records speak for themselves. Frank leaned slightly closer to Jake, but if I did need to prove something, his eyes looked directly into Jake's soul. I could still do it. Now, Frank straightened, looking directly at Jake. Do you still want that punch? Jake's hands shot up in surrender, color draining from his face. No, sir, Mr. Kowalski, God, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Most people don't know, Frank said gently, and that's fine. But you could have seriously hurt me, all of us. Frank picked up his mop and smiled genuinely for the first time. Real strength, Jake, isn't about being able to hurt someone. It's about having the wisdom not to hurt them when you easily could. Those words echoed in the sudden silence. Jake stood, struggling with unfamiliar emotions, shame, respect, awe. Mr. Kowalski, Jake said with new respect, could you possibly teach? Jake was quiet for a full minute, thinking harder than he had in years. Because I just realized everything I thought I knew about strength was wrong. Because you saved my life, and when I attacked you for it, you chose to educate me instead of destroying me. Frank nodded slowly. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. sharp. But understand, what I'll teach won't be what you expect. It'll be about character, discipline, understanding what real strength looks like. I'll be here, Jake said, meaning it. Tyler, Brad, and Marcus approached hesitantly. All of you can come, Frank said. Same rules apply. This isn't about becoming tough guys. It's about becoming good men. From that day forward, Iron Forge Gym transformed completely. Frank continued his custodial job, but now every interaction carried respect and admiration. Jake and his crew became Frank's most dedicated students, arriving early not to lift weights, but to learn lessons about character that couldn't be found in any magazine. Frank taught them about discipline, respect, humility, the difference between confidence and arrogance, how real power is often silent, how true champions lift others up. Occasionally, when the gym was nearly empty, Frank would approach the heavy bag and demonstrate a combination. In those moments, time stopped. The devastating power was still there, refined by wisdom. Those punches reminded everyone they were witnessing true greatness. Frank Iron Fist Kowalski had never stopped being champion. He'd simply found a different ring, where victories were measured not in knockouts, but in positive changes inspired in young people needing better role models. This story teaches us about the nature of true strength and real respect. Frank could have ended that confrontation violently. He had the ability and justification, but instead of using power to destroy, he chose to educate. Instead of crushing Jake's body, He opened Jake's mind. Real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation or recognition. It works quietly, speaks softly, acts only when necessary. It understands that the greatest victories are often the fights we choose not to have. Frank understood that true strength isn't about what you can do to others. It's about what you choose not to do, even when you easily could. Have you ever encountered someone like Frank? Someone whose greatness was hidden beneath humility, only revealed in crisis. Someone who chose mercy over vengeance, education over humiliation. Share your story in the comments. We read every single one. If this story reminded you that real strength comes from character, not muscle, please subscribe. We share stories that matter, that change how we see the world and treat each other. Because behind every ordinary person you meet, there might be an extraordinary story. The custodian might be a champion. The quiet person might be a hero. The humble worker might be a legend.